This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Welcome, family, to another wonderful edutainment edition of the Artivist Jinx. Now, today's episode will be dealing with the recent Robert Durst arrest, aka the Jinx. As everybody known, this past weekend, on Saturday, March 14th, 2015, Robert Durst, the multimillionaire real estate developer from NYC, was arrested for allegedly confessing to killing 3 people that were very, I guess, dear and near to him. His first wife, who has been missing for 30 plus years, no body, no crime, I guess. His best friend, who was the spokesperson for him during his time of need, she was executed mob style, Susan Berman, in her home in Beverly Hills back in 2000. And also the killing of his neighbor in Galveston, Texas, Morris Black, who was not only killed by Robert Durst, as he admitted to, but also chopped up into little itsy-bitsy pieces, put into garbage bags, and thrown into the Gulf of Mexico. So we have 3 murders that we know of with Robert Durst, and he was free until March 14th, 2015. As everybody who has cable or DirecTV or whatever knows, HBO recently aired a 6-part documentary called The Jinx, which details the highs and lows of Robert Durst's unusually interesting life. A life where 3 of his closest people, whether it be a wife, a best friend, or neighbor, was murdered under mysterious circumstances, and everybody pointed fingers at Robert Durst. Now here's the thing, you know, in the last episode, which was directed by Andrew Jarecki, who's a multimillionaire and who also directed a Robert Durst inspired film called All Good Things, which starred Ryan Gosling in the leading role, playing Robert Durst-like character. He allegedly confessed on a hot mic. A hot mic is when, you know, the mic is on and the interviewee is not aware, or whoever the interviewer is not aware that the mic is still on after the ending of an interview. He went into a restroom and he mumbled out a confession, basically saying that he killed them all. And so that what led people or the police in New Orleans to arrest him this past Saturday, and he's waiting to go get extradited to L.A., Los Angeles, for the Susan Berman murder. Now here's the thing. This is what I want to say. America loves her killers, white, male, and privilege. Let me repeat that. America loves her killers, white, male, and privilege. The reason why I say this is very interesting. You think about all the times that certain types of white folks complain about OJ. Why OJ got away? Why OJ got away with this? And yada yada yada. Here you have a guy. Those same white folks that gotta, you know, always talk about OJ must also talk about and explain the curious case of Robert Durst. How can you have a guy who had all this type of evidence connecting him to several different murders walk away scotch-free? I mean, even in the Morris Black murder and dismemberment trial, a jury of his peers allowed him to walk away. So what is this really about? Is this about justice or just us? See, if you can make it rain in the just us system, you have more than a great chance of walking away, regardless or horrendous of the crime. Regardless how horrendous the crime, you have a great chance of walking away if you can afford to take it to trial. Robert Durst comes from generational wealth. He is a member of a family who basically owns New York City. They are some of the top real estate developers in New York City. They own New York, all right? He comes from that type of family. He comes from generational wealth. His father was a real estate developer mogul, Seymour Durst, and he had his sons, Robert and Douglas Durst. They, took the crown. But here's the thing. Robert Durst was able to afford the right type of lawyers. Because you think about how many black folks are in jail doing pleas. A lot of black people that are in jail, or poor people are in jail, is because of the fact they could not afford the right type of representation in court. They could not afford the right type of representation in court. That's why they are in jail. So a lot of black folks are in jail because they had to take a plea. And you also got, a lot of black folks taking public defenders, or poor people taking on public defenders. I'm not going to belittle public defenders, because the problem with public defenders is the fact that they are, in a case overload mode, meaning that they have too many cases to deal with at one time, so they cannot really devote their time properly to one case. Now, if you got money, you could buy a lawyer that can not only devote their time to the case, but they also, if you have enough resources, can hire private investigators, expert testimony, things of that nature, to help your case in court. So that's why Robert Durst was able to walk away. Although he did look kind of funny when he was able to kill somebody, dismember their body, and throw it away with the head is missing. Everything was recovered from his neighbor's body except for his head, which would prove if he did indeed acted in self-defense. So they couldn't find his head, but he was able to walk away. And it was interesting looking at Robert Durst, looking at the documentary, which I would suggest that everybody do. Still, for the fact that Robert Durst looks like a killer. You look at his eyes seem like they have no soul. Like how they said, eyes are the door key to the soul, something like that. Like, you look at a person's eyes, you can see their soul. His eyes are pitch black. You can't see anything reflecting or anything similar of a soul in Robert Durst's eyes. He's like a killer, but at the same time, I can see how he's very likable. I mean, he got away. He's kind of antisocial, but he's sociable. Like, it's kind of like if you listen to his story, you can tell he's very charismatic. Certain type of women adore him. He got a loyal female following. Matter of fact, he's still married. He got a second wife. But the thing about it is the problem with Robert Durst is that people that tend to get close to Robert Durst seem like they end up dead. The folks that get close to Robert Durst seem like they end up dead. And you look at his family, even his younger brother Douglas, who runs the family business, he is so afraid of his brother that he hired a bodyguard to protect him. Let me say that again. His brother Douglas is so afraid of his big brother that he has hired a bodyguard to protect him and his family from his brother. So his family is very much estranged from him, but yet he's still married. He got a second wife. So that's let you know that there's somebody out there for everybody. That's basically what I'm saying. But once again, it goes back to America loves her killers, white, male, and privilege. You cannot get away with this type of stuff unless you got some type of installation from justice. Like, you look at the fact, for example, we talk about Black Lives Matter and all that stuff that people been saying for the last several months and whatnot. It goes back to what George Carlin used to say in his comedy routines. This is a ownership society. If you don't own anything, your life does not mean anything. This is a ownership society. You must own stuff. The people who was able to vote when this country first became a republic were white men who owned property. Let me say that anybody but white men who owned property could vote. Nobody else could vote unless you was a white man that owned property. And that really didn't change until Andrew Jackson came along, and he gave all the white men the right to vote, regardless of their own property. But if you look at it now, who runs society are folks who own things, or own corporations, and things of that nature. You look at the Tea Party. It was founded by two brothers that owned stuff, the Koch brothers. It wasn't grassroots. No, that came from the pockets of the Koch brothers, who's some of the wealthiest people in the world. They're on the Forbes list of the wealthiest Americans, all right? They're in the top 10, I believe. So here's the thing. Robert Durst was able to get away with so much stuff because his family owned a lot of stuff. And also, his generational wealth, meaning that he has not only ownership or assets, but also political connections, certain, This is something that people need to think about, because a lot of times, you know, people try to beg the devil for mercy. Trying to get justice in the just us system is begging the devil for mercy. And so with that said, you gotta know how to play the game in order to win the game. So Robert Durst, he understands that writing checks that don't bounce can get them places where praying on your knees can't. Writing checks that don't bounce can get you places where praying on your knees can't. And another thing with the Robert Durst thing, I think it was a half-ass confession. All right, I think it's questionable how the confession was obtained as far in terms of ethics and morals. It's very questionable how they obtained the confession. And not only that, the producers of the film, of the Jinx, the documentary, claimed that they actually withheld the evidence of their confession for a couple years. To me, it's very unethical for them to do that. But you gotta also look at the fact of this. Is it kind of strange to everybody that Robert Durst will be arrested on the weekend finale of his documentary, The Jinx? The timing is like coming like from Godfather at the end with, you know, the baby's getting baptized and everybody all of a sudden start getting killed. Michael Corleone take off everybody at the same time. It's kind of like what, you know, The Jinx, this documentary in the life of Robert Durst. It's kind of like, okay, this is nothing but theater. And what my friend Brother Dick Gregory say, the games. This is theater, right? This is not the truth. This is just theater. Andrew Jarecki is interesting. He's the director of and the producer of The Jinx, of the movie, of the documentary of Robert Durst confessing his sins, and also he produced the movie based on Robert Durst, and also directed All Good Things. I hope I'm saying the name right. But Andrew Jarecki is interesting backstory with him. He's a Princeton graduate, and also he's a filthy rich guy. Back in 1999, he's the guy that created Moviefone. All right, he sold the Moviefone company to A.L.L. for almost $400 million back in 1999. I think the exact figure is $388 million. This is Andrew Jarecki. He sold that Moviefone to A.L.L. for $388 million back in 1999. So he's not hurting for money. But yet, at the same time, he's interviewing another multimillionaire guy with connections, and he was able to sit upon evidence. Imagine if you was a black person with no means, like an Andrew Jarecki or Robert Durst, and you sat on criminal evidence like that, and you knowingly sat on that evidence until the right time came along for you to capitalize off of releasing that evidence. Don't tell me your ass won't be going to jail. Because black folks have went to jail for less. Matter of fact, there are black brothers on death row right now for less evidence than what Robert Durst has had as far as it relates to the 3 murders that he's connected to. There are brothers on death row on circumstantial evidence. They killed Troy Davis, and there was damn good reasonable doubt and a lot of great reasons why they shouldn't have killed Troy Davis. But they killed Troy Davis because he was poor and black, okay? And matter of fact, there's a case. If you got a chance, family, you got internet, you looking at this, you got internet. Google Curtis Flowers. Now that's a crazy case for you. Curtis Flowers, as far as we know, is the first person in American judicial history to be tried 6 times in a capital murder trial on the same evidence. Let me say it again. Curtis Flowers, a poor black man in Mississippi who's currently on death row in Mississippi, is the first person in American U.S. judicial history to be tried 6 times in a capital murder trial on the same evidence. He's in jail for a quadruple homicide that was committed back in the late 1990s. And the thing about it, what's making it so crazy, is that there is no direct evidence connecting him to the scene of the crime. No fingerprints, no shoe prints, nothing, all right? He's on death row based on circumstantial evidence. That means basically this is not strong evidence to even let him just be in jail, let alone on death row. And he was the only suspect looked at in the entire thing. Now we have done special stories and coverage on the Curtis Flowers case. So if you Google Curtis Flowers, you'll find a lot of We All Be articles and videos. We interview people connected to the case, advocates, family members, stuff like that. But he's been tried 6 times. And, you know, a lot of reason why he was tried 6 times because of racism, white supremacy. The prosecutor in the case, he has shown himself to be a bigot, to be a racist when it comes to jury selection. Like, he would interview black potential jurors 10 minutes, whereas he would interview potential white jurors less than 2 minutes. So all this stuff is covered, but let me get back to Robert Durst. Robert Durst did not have the Jinx. He had what they call the white male privilege, all right? He had the white privilege. There's nothing Jinx about Robert Durst's life. And like I said, with the type of lawyers he can afford, he's not going to go to jail for this half-ass confession he did on that documentary. He's not going to jail, people. That's just a fact of life. So I want to thank everybody for listening. And not only that, let me just say this. If Suge Knight was Robert Durst, he would be free right now. He'll never spend a day in jail. And that's how real white supremacy racism is. And like I said, all the white folks who complain about OJ must explain the curious case of Robert Durst. Thank you, family, for listening to me. Feel free to subscribe, share this video, tell a friend, and know that the best is yet to come. Keep on producing and pushing. And in the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you all madly. Take care.